Welcome to the Landy Peek podcast. I'm your host and friend, Landy Peek, and I am thrilled to have you join me. In each episode, we will explore what makes life truly fulfilling: happiness, deep connections, and self-discovery. Together, we'll uncover that happiness is not a destination, but a way of living. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Landy Peek podcast. If you're feeling stressed today, especially with the holidays, like your brain won't shut off, your body feels tense, you're holding more than you can name, you're not alone. And in this episode, I'm going to give you a few practical body-based ways to downshift right now that will work right now so you can feel better fast without having to overthink your way out of it. Today is a little different in the best way because I'm being interviewed by someone I genuinely love talking to. Her name is Cheryl Dillon, and Cheryl has one of those minds that asks the kind of questions that make you stop and go, wait, say that again? The kind of questions that pull the real conversation out of you. She's a longtime divorce coach, transitioned to the founder of Thunderful Experiences, where she's working with midlife women in a community called Connected Hearts, built around real connection. In this conversation, we talk about why midlife can feel so busy and isolating, how the constant barrage of information keeps your nervous system on high alert, and share simple tools you can use in real time with us, even if you're in the middle of chaos. This is Landy Peek, and I am so excited for you to hear this conversation. Let's get to it. I want to welcome Cheryl Dillon to the Landy Peek podcast. We get to do an incredible conversation where she's going to be asking me some questions, and we're going to be talking about her work and really dive in, because as I've talked to Cheryl, she has this incredible brain. The questions that she asked me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I recorded that because that's phenomenal. So we are recording our conversation so that we can share it. Cheryl, will you tell the listeners just a little bit about you so we can get to know you?
Sure. I'm Cheryl Dillon. I am, for the past 15 years, have been a divorce coach working alongside my husband and partner, Joe, in our primary business, Equitable Mediation. So he's a mediator and I'm on the coaching side, and I provide emotional support to our clients who are navigating this significant life event. I myself am formerly divorced and remarried, although that's in the rear view. I've been married to Joe for 20 years, but the work we do is pretty gratifying because we're helping people avoid the devastation that can happen when things get contentious and, when lawyers are involved and all that fun stuff. Earlier this year, I launched a new company called Thunderful Experiences, and under the umbrella of the company is a membership community called Connected Hearts, which is for midlife women who refuse to see this chapter as a decline and instead see it as a turning point and opportunity to add more joy, vibrancy, more meaning, and to live more authentically. I am with them in this journey, and we had our first gathering a couple of weeks ago. It was wonderful. It's a mashup of fun, friendship. We have more deep conversations, below the surface, and I present a coaching concept in relatable way in English that really relates to where we are in midlife. We have meaningful group discussion about it, and then we have some other activities and exercises that we do to really uplift ourselves, to learn something new, to have some self-discovery, some self-reflection, and we learn some tools that we can bring into our everyday lives to help the mundane be more joyful, meaningful, and intentional. So I know that was a lot, but I've had a long journey, but this is where I am right now. I'm really, really excited about the work I'm doing because not only am I helping women, I'm helping myself. So they help me, I help them. We all do it together. It's a community and it's pretty spectacular.
Oh my gosh, that sounds incredible, and it's local, right? Is your group that you're holding?
Yes.
Because I wanna be involved, but we don't live anywhere near each other.
Well, you might be able to soon. I've actually been giving it a lot of thought. Obviously, we're in our infancy, and it is a local in person membership, but I'm not a big fan of technology. I really feel like that's the reason why many of us feel so disconnected is because the time that we used to spend face to face, we're now scrolling on our phones. I don't believe that that's the same kind of socialization that's nourishing.
Yeah.
But there are some good ways to use technology, and Zoom is one of them. So I've had a lot of interest from some of my newsletter subscribers and some of my friends who are still on the East Coast or in Chicago who have said, wow, this is so great. I wish I could be part of it. And so I think later this year, I'm going to be putting together an online version of it. There will still be like an in real time gathering. So it's not where you're just on your own watching something. The beauty of this is the sharing. And so stay tuned. I will keep you posted. And probably the first thing that will happen is there will be an interest form on my website. And then once I've gauged the interest level, figured out the geography so I know what time to start these so that it's
Okay.
convenient for everybody, then we'll get it going. So to be continued.
I love that because I think you're right. One of the things we're really missing in this midlife space, and you and I are both working in this midlife space, and I think and living it. I think that's why we connected.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and we are in an isolation where we don't have those face to face conversations like we have in the past. It's something I
Yeah.
miss and have to consciously bring into my life because it's
Hmm.
easy to just have a group gathering because of all the things and all the schedules. And I'm trying right now to
Yeah.
create a date with a friend of mine, and we're out into January. And it's like
Yeah.
ridiculous. And like we went through all of December, and there's not a space and time that matches for both of us. And so we're looking into January and we're still texting back and forth trying to figure out a time. And
And
this,
it's just the two of you, just figuring out two schedules.
and it's like, this is a real issue in midlife. We're in our
It
20s.
sure is.
At least my 20s, it felt so much easier to be with friends. Even when my kids were little, like it
Yeah.
felt like I could do mom's groups and have connection and play dates. And now it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I don't have a night free. So I want to dive and really highlight the support that you're bringing and
Yeah.
hopefully bring this into a bigger gathering because Zoom has its benefits. It also has its drawbacks. So
Yep.
but we want to be able to support in a way that, works for lives.
For sure. And it's funny. I'm always trying to figure out like what is it that made life so much busier because even when we were in our 20s or 30s or 40s we still had laundry, we still had to go food shopping, we had our jobs, our partners for maybe some of those years for me in my 30s. The responsibilities were always there. The bills had to get paid. So there were still a lot of demands on our time. And even, when friends of mine started to have children, obviously life got a little bit busier for them because a lot was revolving around the schools and the children's activities and, homework and all that kind of stuff. But still, we could have them over for dinner on a Saturday night, or we could still go out, or have a vacation once a year with them and just have fun.
Mhm.
I'm not really sure what has happened. Some of the things I suspect are our jobs. I'm self-employed, you are,
Yep.
but I worked in the corporate world for a lot of years, and I just remember towards the end of my time, I left corporate in 2010. And at that time, there were I think we had cell phones, but it wasn't where like my cell phone wouldn't be on my desk in my office during my work day. If your personal cell phone rang during the day, you were horrified. Like you just didn't do that. But now I feel like the work life has crept into the home life.
Mm.
So, people working from home now, like you're not ending at 5 o'clock. You'll get emails or texts from your boss at crazy hours of the evening on the weekends. And I think a lot of people feel compelled to answer those. And so it's really disrupting the boundaries, between work and home. Also, I'm old school. I don't think anything replaces the value of shared energy face to face, having those connections. And because it's so easy to text people now or email them, none of my friends call me. It's always a text, some of them email me, but everything is it's just so frenetic. And that really does cut in to the time the time dissolves. You don't realize how much time went by texting or scrolling or doing those things. It feels like it's faster, but in my opinion, it really isn't. And
Right.
so, and then of course, you turn on the news and there's just other things happening at the macro level that are worrisome, that add stress, and that kind of takes away your motivation to even go out because you just feel maybe like you don't have any control over what's happening in the world, or you're just fried. So, so things have definitely ratcheted up in a lot of ways. Life is busier, but it's even more important now to carve out that time to have real connection with people, because I believe that it's those interactions that raise your energy and help you get through all that other crap that's
Uh-huh.
always waiting. It just makes it a little bit easier. And certainly if you're reflecting on your life and where you want to be spending your time, that's the more meaningful stuff, right? Spending the time with your friend, or, you know, going shopping together, or going on a girls' weekend, or, having couples over and having a dinner party. Just those are the things that are the fun. And that's what makes life, worth living in my opinion.
I completely agree. And I think a lot of we are now living in a state of hyper awareness. Like our nervous systems are so upregulated because it's a constant barrage of information. We don't
Yeah.
brains that downshift because we have our phones. So instead of, you know, before cell phones and smartphones, you'd stand in line and wait at something. You might strike up a conversation with somebody. You're at least just in proximity of humans and you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Either you could be daydreaming in your head, but you're still in the world. And
Yeah.
we no longer give our brains that downshift. We're scrolling or checking email or constantly inputting information into our brains instead of having that silent space because we have that
Yeah.
distraction. And it does feel easier. I'm texting back and forth with my friend, trying to create an in-person meetup. And there is that different energy and relation when you are in person. When you are
Yeah.
calling is better than texting, and we probably could have figured out something by now if we had called because it's like
Yeah.
we could both look at calendars and stuff. What does this work and what does this work? But it's really this bombarding of our systems, and we don't have the downshift, and we don't give ourselves silence and space, which our nervous
Yeah.
system need. And our kids are growing up in this way where they're not getting
Yeah.
the space and time because there's something there to utilize, especially if they have
Yeah.
access to technology. And we're not
Yeah.
realizing how much that is keeping us in a fight or flight state because we're getting it might not seem like threatening information, but information just in like, oh, so and so went on vacation and I wanted to go on vacation, but I don't have money to go on vacation. And we go in this little cycle of, oh, and that should have been a positive thing that went through or a neutral thing that went through. It's not like a catastrophe in the world, but it still sets those little flags up inside our brains. And
Hmm.
we're in that downshift. And
Yeah.
it's impacting, and we have to have a rule, or we have a rule, not have to, we have a rule in our house that, like, those phones go down because it's too easy, even as a parent, to get caught in, "Oh, there's an email that came up. I'm just gonna check it really quick." And, having a
Yeah.
conversation with my kiddo, but quick glancing at it, my attention diverted. So, really being conscious of how much it's impacting us.
Yeah, and actually something you said, it just reminded me, you had said something before about you just never have the time to like settle in
Mhm.
and be in the world.
Yeah.
And right, because you're always on alert or you're checking something, you're distracted. And I wanted to ask you if you could say more about the somatic, you know,
Mhm.
somatic experiencing. Um, Mentoring that you are doing with your clients because that term somatic, I've been hearing it all over the place. There's a psychologist that I follow online and I've read her books, and she really talks a lot about the vagus nerve and calming your nervous system and how you store stress in your body. And so I'd love to learn more about what you do for myself because I'm curious. And also, I'm sure there are many women out there who could really benefit by this, especially if there are tools or tips to help calm your nervous system and get yourself out of that constant state of alert.
Right. So somatic in my frame is body based. So we're tuning into what our body is telling us. When talk about a lot of us kind of tune in and hear about mind, body, and spirit. And
Mhm.
I think that needs to be flipped. I think
Okay.
we need spirit first. And that's where we're kind of tuning into our emotions, our feelings. A lot of people I've heard say, our thoughts create the feelings. I think it's
Yeah.
backwards. I think our feelings and emotions create those thoughts. And so if we look at kind of what's coming up, and if we tune in,
Mhm.
body is the easiest. So
Yeah.
tune into our body and notice what are the sensations. When we then tune in and go, okay, so are there any emotions or thoughts or memories or anything kind of tapped into that? It gives us some concrete information for what's going on inside the body. But we as women, especially, have learned to turn off our body signals because they were inconveniences for other people. So, when I am working with someone, one of the kind of foundational things that we're doing is really being able to turn back and tune in to our own systems and our own bodies. What's going on? What's coming up for us instead of trying to push it away or think
Mhm.
through? Because if you're like me, I can think my way in and out of a certain scenario and it doesn't really give me the information. But if I can tune in to what's happening at a visceral body level, I get a lot more accurate information. Our bodies don't lie. So, kind of hopping back, somatic experiencing comes from Peter Levine, and
Okay.
it really is it's an approach that helps humans process trauma that has happened to them because our bodies keep the story, store the story of what's gone on. And while we can talk our way in and out of I'm okay, I'm not okay, our bodies remember everything that's going on. And so when we can tune in and support the body to in somatic experiencing, Peter talks about finishing the cycle, the trauma cycle, which starts with, just orienting to your space, going through fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all of the ways that our body deals with high stress information. And so sometimes when we have trauma, we get stuck somewhere. It's like our body glitches or our system glitches, like a computer glitches. And we can either
Okay.
get stuck on one thing. I'm stuck in fight. So anytime I feel a threat, I'm going to come out swinging, not physically, but I'm going to be the person that argues.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the person that, confronts. Or if our little glitch goes, fight didn't work in that trauma scenario, I'm going to bypass that and no longer use it. Say that doesn't work anymore. And then I'm going to go into the other ones. And so it's just that glitch in how each person processes. And so
Mhm.
when we can finish that trauma story, come full circle, our body's like, oh, I am safe. And this is what happens to animals in the wild is they will have a trauma scenario, say like a rabbit was chased by a fox. The rabbit went into flight because that's the best mode of survival. And then say it got away. It might shake it off or it might just kind of go on its way, but it's not going to come back and perseverate and think about, oh my gosh, a fox chased me, a fox chased me, a fox chased me. That's that human glitch that comes in, is like, oh, we're stuck in the story. The rabbit
Yeah.
just goes back on and doesn't think about a fox until another fox comes along. Have the story that's stuck, and we start going, "Oh my gosh, there's whatever it is," whether it's, somebody laughed at you when you were young and doing public speaking, and now it's like, "Oh, I can't public speak because I'm gonna get laughed at." Even if it's not a conscious story, it's keeping that fear loop going, and so then we
Yeah.
don't do that thing, or it could be something with high level trauma. And so
Yeah.
looking in that's kinda how we go. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and, I totally can relate, to the story that you said about the animals, right? Because, uh, we as humans wouldn't just, like, have a stressful situation and then just jump up and down and shake it off, right? Like, and, I guess from what I understand, it is a way of, like, shaking that, like, trauma out of your body so that it doesn't, take root. And, it's your way of kind of resetting. I have a dog, and
Yeah.
so I will watch her, and she'll be in a situation she actually doesn't get along with other dogs, and we'll be on a walk, and there will be another dog across the street, and I'll see her starting to do certain behaviors that are reflecting that she's not happy, and then, maybe she'll lunge or, like, try to, luckily she's on the leash, but she'll try to, like, go for that dog. That dog, like, gave her the side eye or rubbed her the wrong way, and she's gonna go after that dog. And always, after we just keep on going, she'll shake off. And, it's again, we don't do that as humans, and I do understand what you're saying about getting kinda stuck in that loop. And so, how from as a coach, I
Mhm.
always start it with, like, the thought.
Uh-huh.
So, the thought feeds the emotion, which feeds the action, which feeds the thought. So, that's the loop, and you said you believe it starts with the emotion or the feeling. How can somebody start to have awareness and tune into their body if there's so much always coming at us, and we often don't even realize that we're just in autopilot and, you know, not in tune to anything that's happening.
Right, and as so when we kind of are in this space of so much coming at us, and it comes back to the beginning of the conversation. It comes back to the beginning of our conversation where we're talking about there's so much in this midlife space. We have to start with the nervous system. The nervous system is safety inside of our body. I'm
Mhm.
okay. So we have the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So sympathetic is go, 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 fight or flight. Parasympathetic is rest and digest.
Yeah.
What midlife women struggle with the most? We have digestive problems and we don't sleep. And then we're always anxious and always up, and we can't sit still because we constantly have to go. And even when we're sitting still, there's lists going on inside of our brains. We downshift into parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is that space to be. It's going
Mhm.
back to standing in line and daydreaming or having a conversation with somebody else. And we weren't as heightened, I think, 20 years ago as we are now because of the constant bombarding. So when we look at our nervous system, we can do kind of a twofold approach. We can use tools to help kind of calm our system in the moment. We hear a lot about deep breathing and using like different breath patterns. All that works. It helps signal the body that I'm okay because we can't focus on our breath if we're running from a saber-toothed tiger. And
Mhm.
so it works. There's tools that we can use. We can also go kind of top down, bottom up, is being able to really come into the foundation where at a fundamental level, I feel okay. And so a lot of that comes into the somatics in teaching strategies or tools that help regulate you and regulate is not calm. Regulate is I am in a state that I am okay, I am safe, I can be aware of what's going on in this regulated state. We can be active. Our brains are clearer. We're faster thinkers, right? The things that we want and we think when we're high that we're getting. But in this state, when we're really focusing on nervous system, that's that deep breath downshift. And so when we can downshift, then it's like stepping back from the barrage. And it comes in, we have to be aware of our own systems first. And that's what I love about somatics because we can get lost in the thoughts. And it's not saying that you can't get there from thoughts to emotions, right? It's just there's so many thoughts, and thoughts can lie to us, but our bodies don't lie. So if you tune in and go, oh, well, I'm really up and anxious right now, and I have this pit in my stomach, and I can feel this tight pit. Kind of tuning into that and getting curious around what is that pit? And I like to get kind of a concrete visual around
Mhm.
the feelings that are the sensations that are in my body. So, what is that pit? Does it have a color? It's kind of gray, kind of sticky, kind of about the size of my fist. So I'm getting this visual, and then it's like you can work with it because you have kind of what it is. Now, some people can't do visuals. And so it's tuning into whatever senses you can use.
Mhm.
So does it have a smell? Does it have a sound? Does it have a temperature, right? It doesn't have to just be a visual. I'm a visual person, so that's where I go. But
Yeah.
in that, if we go in that gray, sticky, fist-sized blob, and then in the somatics we're going to bring in, does it have anything attached to it? Does it have a story? Does it have an age? Does it have a memory? Yes or no? And if something comes up, great. If it could move, what would it do? If it could speak or if it could be heard, what would it need? And so we can tie into some of these feelings in like what's going on here. And as we
Mhm.
spin, then we can start making some really foundational shifts within our body. So then it's like, oh, I'm okay. I talk a lot to my clients about being a thermostat instead of a thermometer. We were taught to be thermometers, especially as women. We're constantly reading what everybody else is doing in the room. Is my husband okay? Are my kids okay? Is my boss okay? Is my friend okay? Like, is everybody up or down or what? And how do I need to change to make them okay? And a lot of us learn this as little kids because we had parents that didn't know how to regulate themselves. And so parents are our survival strategy. We mold ourselves to survive to help our parents. It's just this
Yeah.
normal process and it's subconscious.
Yeah.
If we shift to being the thermostat instead of the thermometer, we set our temperature. I am 72 degrees. And that doesn't mean that we can't shift it up and down, right? Because in the summer, I'm going to want a different thermostat setting in my house than in the winter. And so it's okay to fluctuate that, but I'm not reading everybody else.
Mhm.
The thing about being that thermostat with your nervous system is I'm 72 degrees. My kiddo can be throwing a giant meltdown and I'm okay. I'm not reacting to them. I'm here and I'm going to be better able to handle what is coming my way. My boss can be having a horrible day and they're raging and yelling and slamming doors or whatever's going on. I'm okay. It's their temperature that's going on, but it doesn't
Yeah.
impact me. It's like the temperature outside your house can go up and down throughout the day, but if you set your thermostat to 72, your house is going to stay at 72. That's what we want. The rest of the environment can be chaos. And you're like, but I'm okay. I'm safe. And then when the barrage
Yeah.
of information's coming your way, you're better able to field it and say, well, that's important and that's not important. And it's not about being calm, it's about being safe and being able to respond in the appropriate way for what's coming up. If my kiddo's gonna go jump off the roof of the shed, which he tried over the weekend, I'm going to be able to activate and run out there and stop before he bails off. That's an appropriate response, right? If somebody comes at me with aggression and I need to defend myself, that I can run when I need to run, that I can
Mhm.
react. But then when my kiddo is like jumping off the shed and I get scared and I run out to stop him, being that thermostat, I upregulated into, oh my gosh, but I was able to shift right back. I'm okay. I didn't get stuck in, and I used to get stuck in this, is the, oh my gosh, I got scared. Now I'm going to yell at him and be upset and activate and activate and activate because my system is so dysregulated
Yeah.
that it's like, whoo, he stopped. He didn't jump. He's okay. I'm okay. It's like, buddy, that's not smart. Let's not do that. Instead of, why would you do that? How did you do that? Right. And we do. And that's a very activated system. And so
Yeah.
we want to have that ability to go up if we need to into fight or flight or even freeze, because that is a way our bodies can survive. But we don't get stuck there. We can come back. I go about my day. I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, my kid almost jumped. Oh my gosh. We're
Yeah.
in this regulated space. So it's the ability to go up and down, field the information without it sending me on a spiral for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, I know that, for a lot of my life, I'm always on alert.
Hmm.
Uh, there's, I'm sure, lots of conditioning and reasons and probably some, trauma stuck in my body too. And, some of it you're not really aware how it got there, but you're just triggered about certain things. And I know that I can feel in my body when I'm starting to feel, um, like I'm on I'm on high alert most of the time. Although this year I've been making more of a conscious effort to not always be there, but that's my default tendency is to just always be even I don't breathe normally. I'm always holding my breath. I don't know, like I always feel like something's around the corner that's going to get me. But I can feel when I'm very relaxed and then when I'm starting to feel triggered, and I'll say like I'm feeling flooded, like I could just, my heart starts racing, or I have like a little like cold sweat, or like I know I'm being, activated,
Fine.
but I don't know how to get out of it. Obviously, we don't shake off like animals do. I mean, maybe that would help. But I do, like, I will sing because I know that I've read that that's one of the things that helps, your nervous system go into the parasympathetic. And luckily, I love singing. I love singing. So it just happens to have some extra bonuses. I have done the breathing. I know there's like the box breathing, and I'll do like the 4-7-8 breathing, to try to just calm myself back down. But in in practice, it's it's not my normal thing to do. I really have to be in a state of awareness to
Mhm.
get myself out of that high stress situation. And I know as my default tendency, I'm always on high alert anyway.
Yeah.
So, do you have some concrete tips? Like I've read about the cold plunges and again, the breathing. And as I said, I follow a psychologist who shows all these like ways of rocking, and she's got all these different things you could do to stretch your vagus nerve, and so some tangible things. What are your go-to tools? Because obviously the first step would be to have the awareness, like you said, in your body, you're feeling a certain way. um, Obviously, somebody's going to go into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, whatever they normally would do in a situation that feels threatening. How do you get out of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it starts with that awareness, right? Because what we don't know, we don't know. So we have to have that conscious awareness where we hear something somewhere and go, oh, maybe that is me. Maybe I do need to just like watch. And I always get really curious. And I have a science brain. So I love like picking out and watching patterns and figuring things out. And so if we just get really curious about, okay, you already know those signs that start activating your body, that flooding that you're talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the sign. Now, sometimes you may know, oh, certain situations might trigger that more than other situations. Sometimes it just happens and floods us, right? So there's what I really share is that we need to resource ourselves because this isn't a quick fix overnight. I'm going to wave a magic wand and every trauma in your life and your nervous system's repatterned and it's all different. What really creates nervous system difference at the foundational fundamental level is small micro moments of safety throughout your entire day instead of something big. So it's doing it when you feel okay, which tells your body, oh, it's laying a new neural pathway in your brain. This is something new. In before situations, during, if you can think about it, but a lot of us are just flooded during a situation. So
Yeah.
that's not the time that we're going to really dive in. But
Mhm.
biggest time that I advise people to really support their nervous system is the after, because that's when we're changing the story. So we got really activated, really flooded, really upset, really whatever, your heart's racing. Okay, whatever situation's done. Now bring in a resource to really support your system. And I'll share resources, but support your
Okay.
system so that we're shifting the pattern. And it's no longer going into, oh my gosh, and then I'm going to go into contraction. My whole body contracts, and then I'm going to go into collapse. And then we have these patterns that go, or I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go bigger and bigger and erupt. And then I'm yelling and I'm slamming doors or whatever it is, right? We want to interrupt that pattern little bit at a time. This isn't, stop it. It might be slow it down the first time. It might be, slow it down more the next time. And then maybe stop it halfway where you start to feel yourself going. But then it's like, whew, okay, I gave myself a resource. And so
Yeah.
I feel better. Women are on high alert. Our nervous systems are different than men's. Think about, and I've played with this a lot with my nervous system and my husband's nervous system in going into places. I go into crowded places, or if we're walking the street at, after dark or something like my nervous system, I am hypervigilant. I am watching for danger. He does not because he's never had to. We were taught as a young age, we hear stories, we may have had stories happen to us where there are threats. And so we are constantly on alert. And you see memes and things on social media, right? Men never walk with their keys between their fingers on the way to the car. They never, like have watched their drinks. They don't do all of the things that we as women are taught to do to keep ourselves safe. Don't go anywhere alone. Make sure somebody knows where you are. All of the different scenarios, like when I was younger, I backpacked Europe, and there was a time and point that I was on my own in Europe. My husband has done similar, gone to Europe on his own. Never once was he given the safety lectures. I got it by almost everybody that I knew about how to stay safe on my own. He never got it. And it's just difference in gender. So our nervous systems are already heightened because of safety. So looking at, we have a little bit different systems than men, so different things will work. For some humans, cold plunges are great. Others, it activates us more and puts us into more of that fight or flight state. It's tuning into, does this
I
help?
gotta get out of this water.
Yeah, me? Oh my gosh, I hate cold. No way. Tried it. Like I could feel my body constrict and contract, and then it didn't make me feel better. So as I
Yeah.
research on stuff, I'm like, oh wait, this is nervous system level. My nervous system isn't responding in the way that somebody said it might. So this isn't a tool for me. So what I have
Mhm.
developed around resources is a way to test and then retest so that we know which tools give us the best bang for our buck. So, top level, we're coming down with resources and tools. We're giving ourselves things that support that nervous system. Bottom, What I love to do in my magnetic her program is really come down to that foundation. So we're shifting it and you're not having to think it through. It's just an automatic shift to you're the thermostat. But that takes
Mhm.
time and a lot of support from yourself with your body. It's not,
Yeah.
it's remembering the micro moments of safety that come through that we're rewiring the whole system. But let's tune into resources because that's going to give us the best bang for our buck today. And
Yeah.
then shift into if this is something that you want to carry over to bring in and how we can do that. So, one of my favorite tests is um, I'll show two. And then for the listener, I will have this video available so that if you want to watch it to see through. Um, but the easiest one is turn your head to the right. Notice the range of motion as you look over your shoulder. Turn your head to the left. Notice the range of motion. How did your head move? And just notice it. You don't have to share, but you're testing, retesting against you. The other one that I love is doing a cactus arm. So you have your arms straight out and then it bends 90 degrees at the elbow, fingers pointed towards the ceiling. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tip your fingers from pointing to the ceiling to pointing towards the floor. Again, this is another test. You're looking at your own range of motion, not comparing it to anybody else's. It will change depending on your stress level. So this is the cool thing is you can see how stressed you are by your range of motion. So we're coming into the body.
Huh.
So I'm going to share a couple different resources. I was going to say two, but I'm going to go bigger. The things that support our system really tune into our senses and our vagus nerve. There is a phenomenon called neural nostalgia. We know this with PTSD. With neural nostalgia, this is when we're taken back to that moment of trauma by something, by smell, by sounds, by sights, right? Those sensory things take us back to that moment of like, oh my gosh, this is not okay.
Yeah.
But we can use neural nostalgia in our benefit. So it's the same principle, but we can use it to take us back to a moment of happiness, a moment of safety. So if we find a smell that just is like, ah, it's amazing. I feel good. So for me, I grew up in Montana, so that woodsy smell, and it is in an oil, I have it in a candle. Um, that is something that, like, triggers and taps, and it's like, "I'm okay. This is good, good." So,
Uh-huh.
I can resource myself by knowing before, during, or after some stress that's coming up, I can bring in a smell, and it's gonna bring me back into a space that I'm okay. So, we're telling the brain, signaling the brain, "I'm okay here. This is okay." We can also use, I also have a little thing of my grandma's perfume that I carry in my purse because it's like I smell my grandma and it's like, that's an easy carry around, right? It can be whatever brings.
Yeah.
We can use neural nostalgia through music. So perhaps it's the song that you danced to um, when you got married, or perhaps it's the song that was playing, you know, when something really good happened. It's just a sound or a song that brings you back to a moment of happiness, a moment of safety, and then you can turn it on. So, one of my resources, finding scents that support my body, having a playlist. And I have a playlist that I've created that helps with the entire shifting of your nervous system in my magnetic her program, as well as I share it in a couple different things. So if anyone wants that, reach out and I will just send you that playlist because it does shift. It's designed to shift how you feel in your body. I'm creating safety, but you can do it with any song. Find a song that feels good for you. And so we're using the things that we hear, the things that we smell, that neural nostalgia bringing us back. We can also use it with a visual. And we do this a lot, right? We have pictures of things that we love at work or our screensaver on our computer. That's helping regulate us just by the sights. So it's using neural nostalgia to our advantage instead of just being triggered into a trauma scenario. So it's resourcing. Resourcing is bringing that in before that stress event, during if you can, but most importantly, after the stress event. So I got really stressed. I'm going to turn on my music. I'm going to light my candle. I'm going to do something that creates that safety feeling inside my body. Does that
Mhm. Yeah, I think for me, it's, my dog. You
yeah.
know, my dog Wrigley, she's, pure love. And so if I'm stressed, I just give her a big hug. I want her to be with me. And so I think I'll just have to bring her everywhere then. So anytime there's a stressful situation, I just hug my dog and
Fabulous thing around an animal is we co-regulate. So to learn how to regulate our nervous systems, we have to co-regulate first. Well, many of us did not grow up with parents who knew how to regulate, let alone co-regulate.
Yeah.
So it's something that we've never experienced. And we're trying to learn how to do it. And if you're a parent, you're probably trying to parent in a different way than you were parented. And it's a lot of stress and struggle as you're kind of juggling it all. But what
Mhm.
you get to do is have that co-regulation with your dog, and you can co-regulate with pets, right? I just did in my magnetic her how to co-regulate when you don't have another human who knows how to co-regulate with you. And it's tapping into nature and animals and ways that you feel good. And we naturally normally do this, right? This isn't like, oh my gosh, rocket science. This is
Yeah.
highlighting what our systems already crave and want and know how to do, and taking it from a subconscious to a conscious level so we can support ourselves. So I want to swing back to that resourcing because I talked about the test. One of my favorite ways to soothe your nervous system in the moment, because a lot of times we're in places that we don't want to draw social attention, right? So we're not
Yeah.
doing anything big.
You're not gonna whip out your perfume, in a business meeting because your boss yelled at you or
Yeah. Yeah. So if you feel on your ear, there's that little inner bump right before the ear canal, not the
Yeah.
big part, but the little bump that's attached to your head in the ear canal. If you put your thumb inside your ear canal and just pinch that bump, but you can have your hand along your cheek, holding there you go. And you look just like you're hanging out.
Mm.
And just that pressure, there you go.
Yes.
You just had this big sigh. That's the nervous system downshift. And so you can do one or both ears. Now, for moms
Yeah,
out,
write that down.
this is an incredible one for kiddos who cannot go to sleep. So if you can massage it, you can just hold it, you can do it to your kiddos, and they will just shift. And you can see just on your system, your breathing changes, your eyelids start to close, right? It's a big shift in such a simple thing. And the interesting thing is I've played, and I don't know what this little part is called, and I should, but I can't think of it. As I've played with this, as it gets stressed on people, it becomes more hardened. And then just that pressure softens it back to the soft, malleable cartilage. But when you have heightened stress, it does become firmer. And so another way to tune in. So I'm going to invite you to choose either your arm or your head turn and just notice after you use that resource, what happened in your body? Is there a difference in rotation? Yes or no, or it stayed the same. So I'll invite the listener and you, Cheryl, to just try it. Turn your head left to right. Is it different? Take your arm when you're ready into cactus, fingers pointing up, fingers pointing down. Is it different?
Huh.
So for me on video, you can see my arm is significantly farther back in rotation than it was before we did the resource.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
It
So
is.
just little exercises kind of to trigger your nervous system for it to go back to the parasympathetic state.
Exactly, downshift. Now, the reason I do test retest, because there are listeners out there that would try the little ear thing and it won't work for them. They won't see a difference. They'll have less rotation or they'll have the same rotation. That's not going to be the tool that gives you the biggest bang for your buck. Meaning it might work a little bit, but we want the thing that's going to be like, yes, I
Yeah.
feel better because we're busy and we don't have a lot of time. And so you're not going to be trying a bunch of big tools trying to find what's working. So part of that foundation is we find your anchor, the one
Mhm.
that does the biggest bang for your buck. We find that anchor and then you use that anchor throughout your day so that it's like muscle memory. It just comes back. And it's not like you have to think about how to ride a bike. You just get on a bike and you know how to go. It's not like your nervous system has to think, oh my gosh, I have to do box breathing and how's this going? It just kicks in when you get stressed. And that's
Yeah.
a foundation. So we're coming at it both ways so that you build a foundation and you no longer have to have the cognitive thought. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, I'm okay.
So, Landy, if somebody does this and they find what gives them the biggest bang for their buck, have you found that it's typically that one way then for everything? Or does that change over time or based on the situation?
It can change depending on what you need and how big a stressor, right? So if my day-to-day regular stressor, I'm going to show you another resource because I love this one.
Okay.
So our mouths have so many nerve endings. And we use our mouths for self-soothing since we were infants. So we have behavioral, psychological, physiological connections with our mouth into I'm okay safety, right? That's why we drink, we overeat, we have a lot of oral stuff. We chew on necklaces, pencils, right? How much oral things, and if you watch little kids, stuff's always in their mouth when they're stressed, right?
Yeah.
This is coming.
Sucking their thumb.
Yes, little primal um, tuning in. So you can use your finger or you can use chapstick, which is socially appropriate, and you go around your lips in a circle. Now, if I pull out, and I'm putting on chapstick for the listener, if I pull out my chapstick and I put on chapstick, nobody's really going to blink, right? If Aaron,
Only if you sit there for 10 minutes.
right, you know, it might be like a little awkward if you take it off.
Yeah.
But you're looking at that's where we resource before because we might not be able to resource during and we resource after. And so,
So if you do it before,
Mhm.
it will last into the stressful situation?
so it depends on how big a stress and how much support and resources your system has going in. You can also use your finger and go
Okay.
around, just chapstick. But the idea when we're resourcing before is that we're building up our system. It's like if you're going to go for a big hike. I live in Colorado. I love to hike. Going to go for a really long hike. I'm not going to start my hike with fasting. I'm going to eat first, right? I need
Yeah.
resources so that I can then have the energy to go on my hike. It's the same idea. We're building up that resource and if we're using it in a way that we're supporting our foundational system, then it becomes something that creates that new neural pathway and deactivates a lot of the stress before we get in there.
I got it. So it's like you're sort of warming up,
Yeah, so it's giving ourselves um just that the tools that we need to be able to
like
do
an
that.
immune system boost before. Yeah.
Yes. And then if we can do it during, great. But a lot of times we can't. So then we're going to shift to the after. And that's how can we support. So if the lip circle or the ear rub, figuring out which one, if you do the test to retest, which gives you the best difference in range of motion, that's going to be
Yeah.
a bigger tool. That doesn't mean you can't use both tools, but it just gives you that in a heightened stress, this one did better. It gave me the biggest bang for my buck. And so that's kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah, it's so interesting.
it is.
And with the ear thing, is there like any guidelines of how long you should do it, how many seconds, or anything like that?
Not that I know of for like a prescriptive set. What I have found is as you do it, there's just kind of that innate knowing of I don't like this anymore. Great time to stop. Like,
It's like when somebody, I don't know, is like tickling you, and then it's not, you're like, it doesn't tickle anymore. It's kind of annoying, painful.
exactly. Our
Yeah,
system kind of goes like, I'm done. So it's
that's
look.
enough. Okay.
I usually advise people to go as you're doing it until you get that big sigh, because that
Uh-huh.
is the visible sign that your system just downshifted. So when you
Interesting.
feel it in your body and you're like, okay, that's I'm shifted into parasympathetic. I know it worked. But you're also
Yeah.
tuning in. Does it make me feel better? If it doesn't, don't use it.
Mhm.
And at what point when I'm doing it do I shift? So when I'm doing it on my son, especially because he's harder to get to sleep because he's very high active, I'm looking for that sigh, that and the funny thing is, he will actually say, Mama, stop making me go to sleep. And his eyes are closed and he's like so relaxed. But it's something that just shifts his body really rapidly from go, go, go to I'm going to sleep. And we need that shift down into parasympathetic to be able to sleep. If not, our brains are going like crazy, right? So we're
Yeah.
really supporting our systems.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I'm gonna definitely try the ear thing because I wasn't aware of that, and it is interesting because, going back to my dog, I know when I pet her, in between her eyes, like,
Mhm.
there's just this one area she will, you
Yeah,
know, it's so, we're probably not that far away from animals, it's just that what's socially acceptable for them is maybe not the same for us, but I love what you're saying about coming up with ways to kind of get yourself ready if you know you're going to be going into a stressful situation, which we don't always do. But if we're going through life and we're always kind of activated, then maybe it's getting in more practice of just doing those things in general through the day.
right.
um, and then after, like you said, if you can remember after to do some of these things to downshift as you described, certainly it would not make that stressful situation sustained, or have it spiral into other things.
Exactly, and it's giving yourself
Yeah.
grace. It's knowing that if you catch it a little bit, that's one step forward, right? It's just those I always look at 1% change, because if we look at more than 1%, we get overwhelmed and start becoming, "Oh my gosh, now this is one more thing that I have to do and I have to think about."
Yeah. Yep.
1% change. So if it's just knowing, picking your anchor, that's the one thing that you're gonna do. That's why it makes it easy. Every time I come out of a stressful situation or every time I finish work, I'm going to turn on one song or I'm going to turn on a playlist or a favorite artist, right? That's my resource. I'm shifting so I don't come home feeling really, really anxious because work was anxious. I had that shift. Or
Yeah.
I feel stressed. I'm going to have a smell. I feel stressed and I'm going to do the ear thing. I feel stressed and I'm going to do the lip. We're talking one thing that you're going to use. And then if you want more, great. But we as women are too good at piling on all the stuff that we need to do so that we do it right and do it perfect.
Yep.
Instead, it's just 1% shift. Let's pick one thing that starts helping support your body and that I'm safe in this moment. And then it's letting it know it's safe in this moment. And I'm also safe in this moment, right? Because
Yeah.
anxiety is the fear that we won't be able to handle what comes at us. And if we
Yeah.
trigger this, I'm safe and okay, and I'm here in this present moment and I'm safe and okay, that's that thermostat. We're no longer looking at the anxiety of like, oh my gosh. And it comes. I mean, it comes with me. I'm aware of it. And do I resource during it all the time? No. But I can resource enough around it that I can shift it and be like, oh, okay. And one of my favorite things around anxiety is Have I survived something like this before? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Have I ever not survived any of the crappy things that have happened to me? I've survived all of the crappy things that have happened to me. So I will
Yeah.
probably, and the basic level is survive. It's not
Yeah.
like it, it's not thrive through it. It's not be okay even after it, right? I survived it because that's at the body base level of
Yeah.
fight or flight is triggered to help us survive. It's one of the reasons freeze comes in and we're so judgmental around freeze is because
Mhm.
freeze is a survival technique. It's what your
Yeah.
body looked at and said, I can't fight it. I can't run from it. So I'm going to play dead. And it worked because you're here. Did you like it? No. Did bad things happen? Possibly. But you survived. And the body comes back to just survival. And so if we let
Yeah.
go of the shame, blame, and it comes to, yeah, it worked. Yeah, I'm going to survive again. I'm still breathing. Did I like it? No. Was there a whole bunch of trauma shit that came with it? Maybe. But we can work with that, and it's helped
Yeah.
out of that stuckness and being able to process all the way through and say, "Okay, I'm okay. I'm safe again in this moment." Just like that rabbit, we wanna be like, "I'm safe again, and I'm not thinking about the fox or the bad things that happened. I'm in this moment thinking about this moment."
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think that's pretty life changing
Yeah.
to be able to live that way for sure. So it sounds like you're doing some really great work, and I learned a couple of tips, and which is I'm going to try them. So thank you for that. But it sounds like there's lots of us out there doing some really good work. We all have our different modality or approach, or what's meaningful,
Yeah.
in the work we're doing. But there's a lot of commonalities in, some of the issues, and
Mhm.
approaching them in a way that doesn't get in your way of being happy and living fully and being present.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this has been so fascinating. So thank you for sharing all those things.
Oh, thank you for doing this with me. I really appreciate it because I love your insights. And you're right. There isn't one right way to do things. It's finding the way that best fits with your system, with your brain, with your mind, with your stories because
Yeah.
what works for me might not work for you. But
Yep.
and that's okay, right? That's why there's so many different modalities and there's so many different ways to come out at something is because
Yeah.
we're not identical humans. And so we're going
Yeah.
to resonate with different things. And so it's finding the things that support you, doing more
Yeah.
of that, and the things that don't support you, doing less of that. And
Yeah.
that's where we're going to make the biggest shifts is the
For sure.
things.
Yeah, and I mean, it's good to have like a toolkit of lots of things to draw from. It's like some people approach it with, the mind, shifting perspectives, working through limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
the inner critic,
Yeah.
things like that. There's people who are coming at it from physical, eating well and eating certain kinds of foods to support your body and your immune system and, your gut health, and then other people who have a spiritual approach. And, so I agree with what you're saying. You have to find what works for you. But I also think it's so interesting to be able to draw from lots of different things to holistically put them together just to help your overall wellness.
I think you're right. That's the key is we're not an isolated system. And coming from the therapy world, we look at like, oh, there's something wrong with this part of you. So we focus on that. But you hit the nail on the head. We are a whole system. And so we need all of the different parts and they're going to kind of circle around because we can only focus on so much at a time. They're
Yeah.
going to circle around and come in because it's all valid and valuable. And we're going to, in our journey, be able to need all of it to become that whole system that feels good.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
Cheryl, thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. It's always good to see you again. And I'm glad we had an opportunity to talk about some new topic, last time I did most of the talking. This time I was so curious and interested to hear about what you're doing. And I hope we're going to stay in touch. And I will absolutely keep you posted when Connected Hearts becomes available in an online fashion. But you're always welcome if you want to fly yourself out here and come to one of our gatherings, because you will fit right in.
Oh, that would be so fun. And I will have all of Cheryl's information down in the show notes as well so that you can connect with Cheryl. Cheryl and I did a podcast interview focusing on her and her work. So watch for that coming out as well. And I just want to thank you so much. I just love
Thank you back. Yeah, thank you back. Happy holidays.
I want to land this conversation in something you can actually take with you because I know you're busy. And sometimes we just need that one thing that we can take away and really do. What we name today is real. So many women are living in a constant state of on, tracking everything, managing everyone, carrying the emotional load, and running on 1,000 micro decisions in the background. And when your nervous system is under that kind of pressure, your nervous system doesn't power down just because you want it to. It stays alert, it stays ready, it stays braced. So here's the takeaway. Regulation isn't about being calm. It's about capacity, the range of your nervous system to be able to handle what's coming at it. It's the ability to meet your life without your body taking the hit. So I invite you to pick one tool from today and practice it on purpose this week, especially after a stressful moment. That's when your body really learns the new pattern that this is over. I'm safe now, and I can come back and feel okay. And if this episode hits something because you're realizing I'm carrying too much and I don't want to live like this anymore, I want to tell you what I built, especially for you starting in January. Because stress, I found, is really just a math equation. Stress is really just resources and demands. And when there's too many demands and not enough resources, we feel stress in our lives, in our bodies. And when we can build in more resources, because sometimes you can't take out stress. And sometimes we can look at where we can let go of things. But if we can build a better balance where there's more resources for you to draw on, your stress is just naturally going to go down. So I've developed the stress math method, which starts in January, because stress is just math. It's when what's being asked of you, decisions, logistics, emotional load, constant switching, is greater than the resources you have to meet it. And your body covers the gap. That's where you feel the tension, the lack of sleep, the irritability where you're snapping at your family and your kids, where you're just feeling done and overwhelmed, when your brain can't process and think. That's because you don't have the resources and your body's taking the hit. And that's why you can look fine and still feel maxed out. The stress math method helps you change the equation fast. We're going to identify your biggest hidden drains. Mental load, constant switching, right? The things that aren't visible, that are actually creating holes in your system and draining that energy. We're going to look at where you can cut unnecessary demands without burning down your life and rebuilding real resources, time, support, recovery, and systems. We're going to reduce decision fatigue because that takes a lot of your energy. So your week feels lighter. With 3 easy steps, you'll walk away with more capacity you actually feel in the first day. And in the first week, you're going to know how to really shift your life. If you want in, check down in the show notes for details. And if you know a woman who's quietly carrying too much, send her this episode, because sometimes one conversation is the moment everything starts to shift. I want to tell you how grateful I am that you're here in my life, that you're choosing to do something good for you, taking this time to listen, tuning in to what you need, bringing in more resources into your life so that you can better handle what comes your way, become the thermostat so you're not rattled and constantly reading everybody else, and really doing something to change your life. I love you and I like you. And I wish you the happiest holidays. And I will talk to you on the next episode. Hey, before you go, just a little bit of legal. This podcast is designed for educational purposes only. It is not to replace any expert advice from your doctors, therapists, coaches, or any other professional that you would work with. It's just a chat with a friend, me, where we get curious about ideas, thoughts, and things that are going on in our lives. And as we're talking about friends, if you know someone who would benefit from the conversation today, please share, because I think the more that we open up these conversations, the more benefit we all get. So until next time, give yourself a big hug from me and stay curious, because that's the fun in this world.